London AIM-listed Ironveld has iron, vanadium and titanium projects located in the Bushveld complex in South Africa. It's just achieved a major investment agreement to raise £5.6 million in a project funding plan. Its shares have risen by almost double since the news over the last few days, which takes the company to a market cap of around about 14.5 million sterling. It all comes at a time when commodity prices in this particular area of the market are under a little bit of pressure. Martin Eales is the chief executive. He joins us now on the line. Martin, good to talk to you. Thanks indeed for joining us. I'll get onto the share price in just a minute because it really has been a magical turnaround, which we'll see. But I just wanted to get you, first of all, to explain just precisely what it is you've got here, because we spoke just before we went live on this, and you were saying that you're being lumped together as a company in the iron ore space, but in fact, strictly speaking, that's not really where you sit. Is that correct?
I think that's right, Jeremy. Good morning, everyone. Yes, what Ironveld has is a deposit of magnetite, and what people need to do is get away from the idea that this is an iron ore bulks project, shipping iron ore to the other side of the world for use in steel manufacture. What we are is a specialty metals company. We have a plan to process our ore into very, very high purity iron that can go into powders used for what's called additive manufacturing, so whereby an auto parts manufacturer can shape parts using powder rather than taking a lump of metal and hacking away, which has more cost, more waste, more energy. So it's a hugely exciting market, not least because iron powders are also being used in 3D printing, and increasingly metals are overtaking plastics in 3D printing. So we have a plan to get into a growing and exciting market, and it's not just a very low-priced bulk commodity that we're playing in here.
You got this project funding, as I said, which obviously takes you quite a long way down the track to this point of production, which I know you want to achieve in the next whatever months. But we'll get onto that in just a minute. But just explain exactly what this £5.6 million enabled you to do. And I understand at the same time you brought on this partner.
Yeah, so the deal we've announced so far is with a newly incorporated company, albeit coming out of a stable of South African mining interests, whereby Grosvenor is taking 29.9% of an equity stake in Ironveld PLC. That was at a substantial premium to our then market price, so they're coming in at 1p per share, which I think demonstrates their confidence in the project. But we see this as the beginning of the partnership, and we are working with Grosvenor to secure the remaining funding we need to actually get this project into production in very short order.
And what is the plan here from now on in? I mean, you want, obviously, as I say, as an aim to get to production. What has to happen before you get to that point?
It's really just a little bit more money. Obviously, due to the rules of the city and takeover code, etc., Grosvenor couldn't take any more than 30% without making a bid. So we're talking around a way for Grosvenor perhaps to put more money into the project, which wouldn't take them over that threshold. So there are all sorts of exciting structures we can use, and we are already talking about with Grosvenor to get this thing into production. And we feel that, you know, once that money is secured, and again, I stress, we believe it will happen in a fairly short time frame, we'll be ready to commence our plan, which is getting the mine ready and actually building a smelter on site next to the mine in South Africa, all of which can take place in roughly 12 months.
So within 12 months, you hope to be producing?
Exactly.
And what sort of commercial levels are you talking about here? Obviously, you've done the all the due diligence and the economic feasibility studies and so forth. What's the long-term target? What sort of market you're going to be selling into, and what's the achievable prospects here for Ironveld?
Yeah, well, as I said, the key market for iron powders is actually pretty much dominated by auto parts manufacturers. So it goes into gearboxes and other parts in motors, whereby people can use these powders to manufacture parts more efficiently. And there are sort of 5 or 6 major manufacturers of metal powders, and we have relationships and have talked to all of those players, and would expect to potentially be selling our powder into just a limited number of off-takers. Indeed, may only be one off-taker, so that simplifies our selling process. We also have an offtake in place for our vanadium byproduct with an international trader. That's been in place for some years. And the titanium, we are working on offtakes for that as well. So we don't believe selling will be a problem. The company's been around a long time. We've talked to a lot of people. What's really been the sticking point here is having the funding to get going to actually build a smelter.
And how big's the mine? What's the mine life? What's your expectations in terms of longevity?
Well, the sky is the limit, really. The resource we have declared is 56 million tonnes, and that will see us going for decades at any sort of planned rate of production. We'll barely be scratching the surface at first, but the key thing from our perspective is to really get that first production going, get it in the hands of customers and off-takers, and build from there, because the process is fairly modular. You know, a 5 megawatt smelter has exactly the same processes as a 25 megawatt smelter. So we would intend to scale up post this first stage and getting going initially.
Let me just bring up a share price chart. Just ask you to talk us through it, because we're currently trading at 1.25 pence here in London on the AIM market. As I said, this project funding has seen a massive uptick. And in fact, I think actually it has doubled in price. You're talking there about this offer coming in. I think it was at a 0.6. They bought it a penny. So as you say, they got confidence in the outcome and it sailed right past the penny level. And in fact, at the moment on the chart, you can see, in fact, it's what high is not seen since October last year. But there's a long way to go before we achieve levels that we've seen in the past for Ironveld. But of course, you're in a very different position now with the prospect of production within 12 months or so. What do you say to investors buying in at this level at 1.2 pence, 14 point, whatever it is, million market cap?
Yeah. You probably expect me to say this, but I still see it as a great investment at this level. Our new partners are demonstrating their faith in the project. And I think what people need to understand is, when a company's market cap, as it does in our case, gets to a certain level, it's almost as if the market doesn't quite believe what you say you've got. Whereas, you know, for 5+ years, we've been telling the market what we have in the ground here and telling them how good this project is. But of course, when you need a certain level of funding to get going and your market cap is at a level that is kind of out of kilter with that, people do tend to lose faith a little bit. I see this as the beginning of a long-term appreciation in the stock, especially when we can start communicating, A, we've closed the funding we need to get into production, and then B, over the 12 months from there, as we get ever closer to producing final goods.
I was going to ask you actually what the timetable is from here and the milestones. Clearly, those are two big milestones. In what time period do you expect to be able to start producing some indicators to suggest that you are on track?
Yeah, as I say, I referred to us getting fully funded in short order. I would imagine that would be within the next couple of months. And then from there, we have a plan in place we can rapidly execute that involves starting the mine and building the smelter on site. This thing has been gestating, let's say, for many years. So we're very keen and ready to get going.
Martin, thanks indeed for joining us. It's a pleasure to catch up with you. Thanks for your time. Busy man, obviously. You've got lots on your plate, and we look forward to hearing more. That's great. Martin Eales is the Chief Executive of Ironveld. For more videos from us here at IGTV, join us on Twitter at IGCom, Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube channel.